This is the Isle of Man, a rugged island situated in the Irish Sea between England and Northern Ireland, with lush green landscapes and an illustrious motor racing pedigree. But here I am on the Isle of Man for the next 26 hours, and I am going to seek to answer the question, can you in one day see some of the top sights and sound that this beautiful island has to offer? Alright, so first stop on this little island tour here on the Isle of Man is the beautiful harbour town of Peel, which is on the west coast of the island. And this little harbour town has a castle as well, so let's go and have a look at that. So getting a bit closer to the castle now, and it's a lot bigger than I was imagining. It's right here on the end of the seawall, the harbour area really. So I can imagine that this was a kind of fortification, and it's given that it's on the west side of the island, it was probably protecting the Isle of Man from Ireland itself or people coming from the west. So let's see whether or not my theory is correct as we go inside. Well, I think it's fair to say that the Isle of Man coastline is pretty spectacular. Looking back there to Peel Harbour, on this boat here, the True token coming out, looks like a fishing vessel of some kind, so probably heading out to catch some supper for later. But here is the Peel Castle. Wow, so just reading this here, it says you're standing on the threshold of 4,000 years of Manx history contained within the walls of this magnificent castle on St. Patrick's Isle. The Viking king Magnus Barelegs began the build of Peel Castle in the 18th century. I am officially the king of the castle. Just got into the castle grounds now here, Peel Castle on the Isle of Man, and been told that rabbits are a big issue. See this warning?
We've been scrapping these guys for about 10 years.
So let's stay away from any dangerous rabbits. I've been told I might fall down rabbit holes and all that kind of stuff, so let's hope not. But let me give you a little bit of information about the castle itself. So obviously here on the west side of the Isle of Man, beautiful view there out over the coastline and of Peel itself, the town. But this particular castle was built in the 11th century by a guy called Magnus Barelegs. That is true, Magnus Barelegs. Our friend Magnus Barelegs, the Viking king of Norway, ruled with fearlessness. Known for his raids in Scotland and Ireland, he earned his nickname by wearing traditional Viking clothes, such as short tunics. So this castle is actually on a separate island to the main part of the Isle of Man, on an isle called St. Patrick's Isle. And I'm just walking up now to somewhere called the Flanking Tower, used in the 15th century to have a little look out over the coastline, and that is pretty beautiful. Peel Castle was built in the 11th century by the Norwegians, predominantly from wood. In the 14th century, however, it was heavily fortified using a local red sandstone. Even as late as 1860, the castle remained fortified and new defensive positions were added. Well, that's not too bad, is it? Not too bad at all. I've often said that there are very few places in the world that are as beautiful as the UK when the UK has got sunshine. And very luckily today, even though summer is meant to be over, the sun is beaming down. I am just taking in the beautiful scenery here, and this is the main courtyard or central area of the castle, where obviously you can see the main turret building there, and as I pan around you can see the the size really of this castle and its fortified walls. And I understand actually that even though the castle itself was built in the 11th century by our friend Magnus Barelegs, this particular isle, St. Patrick's Isle, has been in use for over 4,000 years, so steeped in history.
The castle has more recently been used as a prison, and in 1780 the last inmate left.
So in the 16th century this would have been the officers' quarters, as you can see there. Quite a nice spot. Just imagine a nice little window here and you could look out over the castle itself as an officer. If you think about the Isle of Man's strategic location, I can expect, given that it was between the UK mainland and Ireland and Northern Ireland, that it was quite a sought after or contested landmass, really, given its strategic position. So I can well understand why there is this fortification here, which has stood the test of time over 700 or 800 years, albeit in ruins now, but still some of the buildings in decent condition, to give you an idea of what it would have been like for those individuals defending the territory from invaders who had come through the seas just there. In this instance, I don't think that boat is an invader and is just a fisherman. So whilst I was walking up to this viewing point here on the southeastern side of the castle, I was thinking to myself, you don't really see castles being built anymore as such, in certainly not in Western society anyway. But maybe our new version of a castle, instead of these beautiful fortified walls and, you know, concrete structures high up on a hill, we instead just use barbed wire and CCTV, and maybe that is our version in the 21st century of castles. So way back in 1814 there were 2 coastal defence batteries with 18-pounder guns mounted, and the stone parapet and rails for traversing the platforms are still in position. So we can see here actually that the rails for moving the gun are still in position 200 and some years later.
During World War I, Peel Castle served as a military hospital, caring for injured soldiers, and in World War II its strategic location made it a lookout post for coastal defences against the enemy aircraft. Today, Peel Castle stands as a symbol of resilience, reminding us of the brave lives shaped within these walls.
Now, at the time of the making of this particular castle, obviously religion was a big part of British society and Manx society, so this chapel or church was built, and you can still see the arch-like windows. It was built on the grounds of the castle, and if I just quickly go down here into the belly of the chapel, we come into the crypt, which was originally opened in the 13th century, but the most recent usage of this was in the 18th century as an ecclesiastical prison. So a prison here on the island in the fort, and we can see actually here the windows have bars on, although maybe it's a prison with the nicest view of all. Well, it's quite a steep and narrow climb to get back out of what would have been a prison 200 years ago into the main cathedral section here. Beautiful.
If you enjoy history, then I definitely recommend taking the time to come and visit Peel Castle, perched on the Isle of Man. It's a historic fortress dating back to the 11th century, but it's also played a pivotal role during both world wars, serving as a military hospital providing care for injured soldiers, and also its strategic location during the Second World War. Today it stands as a captivating blend of history and natural beauty. The Isle of Man flag features a triskelion with 3 armoured legs, nodding back to the island's Celtic heritage. It means, whichever way you throw me, I will stand.